Military leaders are now asking the White House to delay the drawdown of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. This is according to reports in the Wall Street Journal today. The Pentagon reportedly wants the president to wait until the fall of 2012 to bring the 33,000 surge troops home. But some on Capitol Hill are arguing the opposite. A bipartisan group of senators is asking the president to bring the troops home beginning next month. But Senator Lindsey Graham told me on our show yesterday why that's a bad idea.
The surge of forces we're needed is working. A modest withdrawal is called for this July. This letter by my colleagues would undercut General Petraeus's transition strategy. It would stop momentum. The enemy is on their knees. If we change strategy now, they would be back into the game.
Well, let's bring in a senator that disagrees with that. Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon is one of the senators supporting the beginning of a drawdown next month. And we'll dive a little deeper into the specifics of that, Senator. But Senator Lindsey Graham, the only member of Congress to be active duty serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. Why do you disagree with him?
Well, put very simply, we had three goals when we went into Afghanistan. One was to take out the Taliban leadership and government. The second was to take on the Al-Qaeda leadership that had planned 9/11, the top tier of leadership. And the third was to eliminate the Al-Qaeda training camps. We have accomplished those, but what has happened while we've been accomplishing those is we have morphed into a nation-building mission in which our very funds are creating the corruption that thwarts that mission. This is not the role for the American military. We need to recognize that Al-Qaeda are in many countries all over the world and that we have to deploy them, our troops, in a counterterrorism fashion that takes on the threat where it's at.
So what exactly does that mean? We have about 100,000 troops in Afghanistan right now of different forces. We had the surge, that's 33,000, that's included in that 100,000 number. When you're talking about a sizable sustained reduction, give me a number. What exactly are you talking about?
I think that a lot of folks who use those words, and I would, myself included, are talking about initial reductions of 15 to 25,000 troops. Carl Levin, the head of Armed Services, has stepped in and said it should be at least 15,000, of roughly half of that surge number, and sustained in the sense that it is time to change strategies. We are building a strong central government in a nation where that government is an affliction to its people, because every position is sold from the governorships on down. And that level of corruption means that U.S. dollars and the U.S. goal of building strong institutions is blocked. And instead, we need to be taking on the actual terrorist threat in a counterterrorism fashion. The CIA says that there are less than 100 Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, but far more in Somalia, in Yemen, certainly far more in Pakistan. And that is the threat we should be focused on, not nation building in Pakistan.
You know, what you're saying now, I'm sure, is resonating with I'm sure it's all right. What you're saying, I'm sure, is resonating a lot with our viewers that see this mission that you're defining. You gave us those three components: the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda leadership, and disbanding the Al-Qaeda training camps. Training camps, right? These three components. So
a lot of people are concerned.
Well, we often ask, Senator, though, are we winning in Afghanistan? So if we have done those three things, are you prepared to say that we've won in Afghanistan?
Well, the word win is in the mind of the beholder, but we achieved the three missions that we set out to do. And that was the point, that was the goal. It was to take on the terrorist threat, not to try to build massive new government institutions in a nation that has never embraced a strong government, and which certainly is failing in its effort to do so now, even with the high level of help that we've been providing.
So you have 28 senators, as I understand it, signing on to this letter that you sent to the president. Have you heard from the president yet?
No, we haven't heard from the president yet, but I'm sure he's going to be engaged in this dialogue over the next few weeks, because it's not just the 28 senators. In addition to them are folks who have made their independent statements on the floor of the Senate. Joe Manchin from West Virginia, certainly Carl Levin, head of Armed Services. And I'll tell you, through doing this letter, I had conversations with somewhere around 60, 70 senators, and the sentiment is widespread that we are off track, that we accomplished the missions we set out to do. We've adopted a new one which has inherent obstacles and that is not the best use of our military resources or our economic resources, that continues to put our men and women in harm's way, both for death and for injuries, in a fashion that isn't best serving our national security.
Senator, a final question for you here is a question about timing. According to these reports that came out this morning, what the Pentagon is saying is just give us another fighting season. Doing a drawdown in the middle of July, which is when there's a lot of fighting that takes place in Afghanistan. There is an off season when it's cold and the fighting doesn't take place. Why not? Why now? Why do the drawdown now? Why not wait until you get through this fighting season, reassess, just to really make sure that this is the right move?
Well, let me tell you, if we are drawing down 15 to 25,000 troops, that still leaves a force many times the size that we had over our first 8 years in Afghanistan. And that much larger force can continue in its mission. We can continue to evaluate. But let's understand this. When we go in under this strategy of securing a village, and we say we're not going to leave now, so we've tied up our resources indefinitely into the future, the Taliban simply moves on to the next village. And we do not have anywhere near the resources to occupy every village in Afghanistan from here to eternity. It's not a logical strategy in taking on the terrorist threat. If Al-Qaeda comes back in and sets up training camps, we go in and we stomp those out. That is a much more feasible military strategy directly related to our national security.
Senator Merkley, it's an interesting topic we're going to talk a lot more about. We really enjoyed having you on. We look forward to talking to you again. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you.